Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana.
And a very good, let me check, evening. It is 5:31. Absolutely amazing having you with us today. My name's Cummings, of course, talking UCT Online High School. It's our information session. And you see those amazing people, all those people that are much better looking than me. Well, I'll be talking to them a bit later. By the way, you know my name, Kino Cummings. I used to be on radio. I then decided that I was actually going to get a real job, and here I am. But we're also going to be joined by Daniela Randall. As you can see now, Danny is Head of Student Wellbeing. We'll be giving an introduction to herself. Then Dylan Campbell. Dylan Campbell is the co-curricular manager. I actually got that out without stumbling. And then Monet Chiove. Great to have you on as well. So Monet, of course, is the Career Services Manager. I'll be having a lot of fun with these young people, right? In order to make your child's experience at UCT Online High School, I can't use that word, but it's going to be fun. Let me just say that. Now, we've had over 1,000 people registered for this information session. Unfortunately, we can't do Q&As. We'll just be unfair to everybody, but we've got amazing admissions counselors, student success team as well, and that team will get hold of you. If you do post your questions in the Q&A and you've anonymized yourself, if you want us to get back to you, it might be a good idea to explain to us how to actually do that. This session will be around 30 minutes. And I'd just like to welcome you officially once again to UCT Online High School. Welcome to the family. Now, I did say without any further ado that we are going to be introducing you to this amazing team. And I think we'll start with student well-being. You know, you've heard this particular phrase being thrown out there, but what exactly does it mean? How is it actually experienced? Now, before we get started with the theme in total for tonight's information session, I'm just going to ask each of our guests tonight to please introduce themselves and tell you what role they play at UCT Online High School. So Danny, you can wave there, answer it. Let's start with you.
Thanks so much, Kino. What a privilege to be here and to be speaking with you this evening. As Head of Student Wellbeing, I really do have the privilege of collaborating with our passionate and dedicated student experience and management teams. And together, we strive to ensure that as a school, we continue to create spaces of belonging where all of our learners can thrive.
And that's important. Hey, they've been through really tough times, a lot of learners going onto a new space. Well-being is a very important part of that. I forgot to tell people I'm head of culture. We're still trying to figure out what that means. But Dylan, tell us a little bit about yourself and what the co-curricular manager does.
Thank you, Kino, and greetings to everyone. So as Kino said, I'm the co-curricular manager. I oversee all of the co and extracurricular activities, and that is to ensure that the learners have the best possible experience at UCT Online High School. So that's me.
Yeah, awesome stuff, Monet. And what about yourself, sir? We know that you're the Career Services Manager. I mentioned that before, but a little bit of an insight into that, please.
Good evening, everyone. I am the Career Services Manager, and I'm in charge of of guiding learners and supporting them when they develop their careers in their time at the UCT online high school.
Very essential indeed, all of your positions. So Danny, I want to kick off with you, right? How would you define well-being? I mean, some people would say it's a bit of a suitcase word. What is your approach to well-being?
I love that, a suitcase word. I haven't heard that before. And it's so true that when we use these go-to terms, they can often lose meaning and impact if we don't really unpack them and make them ours. So our very unique philosophy to well-being is an approach that's based on the foundation of redefining and challenging the landscape of excellence. Just watching Jerusalem when it came on, to me, that's well-being, that's community. It took me right back to a time when it was released that we came together. I don't know anyone who didn't do the Jerusalem challenge. That is the beauty of community. So this approach is really one that views excellence that does extend beyond academic and co-curricular achievement. It's one that is a concept of creating spaces of belonging, of connection, that community, of authenticity where our learners can flourish. They must challenge and explore who they are while they feel safe to do so. So we view well-being as a concept achieved when our learners' wiring, their personalities, and their interests are aligned in how they navigate their adolescent and educational journeys. So it is in this well-being framework that we truly celebrate the beauty of difference instead of shying away from differences. And we have an intentional focus on the hidden curriculum.
Okay, hidden curriculum. I mean, you were talking to me about having interesting, suitcase word phrase. Hidden curriculum is very interesting as well, Danny. So hidden curriculum of life. Please tell us more about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So the hidden curriculum of life is really what we view as the hard and the soft skills that make adolescents' high school years reflective, makes them purposeful and enriching. So it's our duty to prepare our students with the basic skills to enter life after school, but as mindful global citizens and professionals. And I think Monet could probably elaborate beautifully further on our intention behind that.
Monet, yes, I would love to hear more about that because, the world out there, and that's been the biggest problem, hasn't it? You're in this cocoon sometimes, you go to school and then they let you out and you fly into this thing called university and you go, I haven't seen that before. And then there's the bigger thing called life. So I would love to hear more about the career guidance vision and the journey.
Thanks, so look, if you look at the hidden curriculum, it actually begins quite early in a child's education, and learners learn to form their own opinions and ideas about the environment and their classmates. And if you look at an example that I can use here, a child or a learner could learn appropriate ways to actually behave at school, meaning they will make sure that they learn the behaviors that would make them a bit more popular to the teachers and their peers. And also, they also learn to understand what's expected of them. And if you think about grades, they actually look at the year-end test as one of the most critical aspects of them succeeding in this career journey, and the attitudes and ideas aren't taught enough in the schooling system, in the formal education. But your adolescents, they absorb and they internalize some of them through the natural observation and participating in activities and learning from others. And so when you look at the career guidance process as a whole, and you need to factor all the aspects of the academic readiness as well as the hidden curriculum, which is now you're more career ready. I need to learn the skills, the soft skills and the hard skills. And when you look at how it all comes together in terms of ensuring that the learners get a unique experience when it comes to realizing their full potential, it actually looks at making sure that they leave the schooling system with all the necessary skills that are required for them to actually succeed in life after the formal education system. And when you look at how we look at infusing things like your mentorship and coaching into the curricula, it allows us to actually maximize on the impact of career guidance and awareness for our learners, and just ensuring that they learn from those who've actually walked the path before them.
Absolutely. I mean, experience is essential. And, when we think of schools, and especially the sort of classic way of doing it, it's all prefrontal, right? It's all, you've got to, if got to remember this, but we forget that you're born with your prefrontal lobe is a clean slate when you're born. The most active part of your brain is in the limbic region, right, which is the emotional side of the brain. It's been informed by centuries, and I always think that a well-rounded student, in order to get a well-rounded student, it's about developing both and making stronger connections between the two. But I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'll stop waffling, right? But Monet, I mean, that sounds superb, right, for the learners of 2022. But what about those learners who are seeking guidance right now? Because there are learners who need guidance, before making subject choices, for example, for next year.
Yeah, so if you look at what we have upcoming in November, we'll be hosting a webinar specifically focusing on subject choices, selecting the right subjects for your academic year, especially for your grade 9, grade 10 learners. And what we want to do is to infuse that as part of our UCT online high school pre-orientation for the new learners who are coming. And I think also there's the learners that have already chosen, and those who are still struggling with choosing, they'll also benefit from this webinar that's coming. And I think it's quite important that we align the students' values, their interests, and their personalities when they're making the subject choices. Because if you think about career development, it's a lifelong process that you need to actually help kids realize themselves and actually plan and manage their careers beyond the education system. And I mean, if you look at how this actually forms part of our well-being vision, where learners are going to be involved in the subject selection processes, and also considering that we want to use a holistic approach towards looking at the learner and making sure that we create a learning experience that they can actually thrive in and always be motivated to wake up and go and choose those careers that actually best suit their personalities and their behaviors.
You know what I think we need to do? I think we need to stir the pot a little bit. I think it was in Australia where they allow, one of the subjects is actually surfing. Hello. Can you imagine combining, let's say you're a good surfer, right? And you link that to your entrepreneurship. And you take that passion and you go, okay, how do we build out this passion for surfing? And how do you actually use the skill you have to build out a business? This is not on any script. I've just made it up. It's how I work, by the way. I'm just saying, I am going to be bothering a lot of people, making lots of suggestions. But I think the whole thing about UCT Online High School is that this is an innovative organization. Things always change for the better, and we obviously respond a lot to what you ask us, as parents, and we listen to the students as well. Now, Danny, back to you. Earlier, you basically told us about career counseling, that side of supporting learners, but what about the therapeutic counseling and also the academic support?
Thanks, Kino. This ties in with our reference of our holistic offering of wellbeing support, where we don't view events or any of our learners in isolation. So it's that community and that whole approach of this being, because we all have a context or a reference point, and it's up to us as wellbeing support to ensure that we safely explore them to gain understanding and to offer appropriate and adequate support to our learners. Within our response to intervention framework that we are acutely aware that academic, school, performance and productivity and emotions, as well as emotions, academic, school and performance and productivity, are so often inextricably linked. I'm sure we can all think of our own personal examples where that remains true. And that is why the individualized role of our coaches and student progress monitoring meetings with our teachers and our coaches and support staff are essential cogs in our wheel of pastoral care and making referrals for therapeutic support.
Absolutely. But and that sounds amazing, but could you expand a little bit? It's always, all of this depends on the model that you use to be able to support, right? So tell us a little bit about the model.
Super. So we have school counselors and academic support who provide short-term counseling and interventions, but they don't do it in isolation again. They engage collaboratively with learners, guardians where it's indicated, coaches, and our faculty teams. And these sessions may be requested from the learners or the families directly, or sometimes referrals are made within our school system. And our learner support teams manage all our internal and formal accommodation processes for students who require them. And while we can recommend a base of external facilitators to assist us with our students and their accommodations, we work incredibly closely with them. We don't provide facilitation services internally for accommodations, although we oversee the process. So I just want to make that quite clear. For barriers to learning, external facilitators are sourced, but they work very closely and cohesively with us. And internally, we have counselors and academic support. And then sometimes there is the need for us to have external academic and socio-emotional referrals, and that would then be made by the learner support team when a learner may require long-term interventions or if the matter is beyond any of our scope of practice. And for us, it just always remains critical that our learners and their families are very much part of the intervention journey and that we do equip them all with transferable life skills.
That's interesting. And, with the academic stuff, it's all data driven, right? So I can see when Kino has been doing more skateboarding than studying, and his math mark has dropped by 80%, right? It would never have been me. But anyway, so I could have, it's easy to see that. How do you pick up when you need to get involved from a psychosocial perspective, though? It's a little bit less tangible, or am I wrong?
No, you're so right. And I think that's why this offering is so special, because we have that personalized connection. So whether it's meeting with your coach, with your weekly sessions or your office hours and those one-on-one chats that you have, and that's where that link of emotion and academic should never be seen separately. If you are aware that a child has gone through something, have a look at the academics. If we see a change in the academics, maybe there's something emotional going on. And that whole view and that constant open communication with faculty, with students, and with coaches, that is so important, so that it isn't just a data output. It certainly guides us, but it's a human understanding and facilitation.
Love it. Love it. And even bricks and mortar schools find it very difficult to be able to, if you just look at the amount of people we hire, you'll understand why we're able to deliver the type of support that we promise that we're going to. Now, Dylan, you probably think, why is this Baldy? He's not talking to me. He's talking to everybody else. Don't worry, I've got a whole section for you. Time for us to look at the co-curricular activities, right? Now, when you introduced yourself, you mentioned that you oversee co and extracurricular activities. What's the difference between the two? I think that's the first key question I have for you.
Sure, thanks, Kino. So, co-curricular, when we think of it, we think of it complementing the academic curriculum, whereas extracurricular activities are something which are not necessarily tied to the academic curriculum. But, in our context, we tend to use these terms interchangeably because we see learner development in such a holistic way, as Danny was mentioning. So, what's happening in the formal academic setting is benefiting students in other ways. And what's happening in if a student goes on a hike is also benefiting them if, a staff member comes with and there's an academic discussion. So we like to see these in holistic ways, and they are very much interchangeable.
It's without a doubt one of the top things that parents always ask. My kid's going to be behind a screen. They're not meeting different people. I'm worried about, their mental well-being and all the rest of it. People are very concerned about learners becoming isolated, right? And especially in the context of lockdown as well. It's had a fundamental effect on young people. I'm a father of a kid, for example, who suffers from depression as a result of that. So could you tell us about UCT Online High School's approach to the co-curricular activities?
Sure. And, that is a very important point that you raised, the online education space, it does provide us with a lot of unique opportunities for innovation in that regard. And so for us, creating communities is really important. And that's not only online, but offline as well. And I'll chat about that a bit more now, because, our co and extracurricular offering, those two terms again, it involves a variety of aspects. So firstly, it's virtual clubs, which we will be having. We'll be having outdoor experiences. So that's, cost effective and inclusive ways in which learners can have outdoor experiences and socialize in outdoor settings, from hikes to river rafting adventures, for example. And then it's also, we will have databases of vetted extracurricular providers. So, that's a sports club, a drama club, a music school, coding camps, for example. So, parents and students can see what's available and get involved in those. And in a similar vein, we're going to have vetted community service opportunities, so a database of those too. So wherever you live in the country, you can look that up and say, okay, I'd like to get involved in this. And, obviously learners can earn hours in that way. But, more importantly, it is about creating that community and opportunities for learners to, interact with like-minded people or like-minded learners, let's say, and have that ability to connect differently and do meaningful work, of course, which is very much needed in our country.
Absolutely.
And also, sorry, Kino, go for it.
No, go for it.
Okay, cool. Also in the process of doing that service work, doing that community service work, those are leadership opportunities for students. And so in that way, we are also going to have, in fact, leadership opportunities in the form of internally provided programs, but we will also outsource some of that work to, and external service providers will do some of that too. And so, for us, it really is a multifaceted approach. And, as we launch in January, we're going to be building on our offering because we really want to create accessible opportunities for all learners, and also to create those communities that I was mentioning earlier.
So by the way, Monet and Danny said they'd love to do the whitewater rafting testing first before they started, right?
Noted.
I might hop in there as well, maybe on a surfboard in 2033. But anyway, your last point is very, very important, Dylan. We will be building this as we launch. Do you plan on, first sense checking what type of activities learners are interested in? I mean, and that of course is essential.
Yeah, definitely. And in order for these to work, they need to be relevant to learners, obviously in terms of their interests, but also they need to be beneficial to them. So we will, as we go, we will be conducting regular surveys, and we'll be doing that in as early as the pre-orientation phase that Monet mentioned earlier.
Now, how do we encourage, and I think motivate is probably the other word I need to use there as well, learners to participate? Because this is not something we're forcing on you, yet it is something that is absolutely phenomenal for your well-being, right, as per our discussion with Danny earlier. So while learning is important, those concerns about kids going to sit in front of those computers, as I mentioned earlier, once again pops top of mind, and some of them might not want to do those things. So what are we doing about the encouragement and the motivation side of things?
Sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, the focus on community is really important here.
Yeah.
And, we may be online, but we still need to really, focus on community because it's as important as ever. Mm-hmm. And, in chatting to learners recently who have been involved in the online space, there's a really strong desire to connect beyond just the academic setting. And so for us, providing those opportunities is a starting point, but then also to create a mix of virtual and in person. So we are again catering to more and more learners in that way. And then we, like I mentioned earlier, we need to make sure that our offering is aligned with learners' interests. And so having that constant feedback relationship is really important for us as a means to get as many learners involved as possible.
You reckon you've got the sweetest gig out of all of us?
I think so.
I mean, you get to deal with esports and all sorts of other stuff, man. Hello. There's got to be some culture aspect to that. I've got to find it somewhere. But anyway, now the activities are great. One of the things a lot of parents will ask about, is this going to cost any extra?
Yeah, so that's a very important point, Kino. We are very much aware of the challenging times that we're facing in our country and in the economy in general. And so we will, as far as possible, endeavor to make these activities as affordable as possible. But also, some of our offering will be included in the school fees. For example, virtual clubs, that is going to be very much included in the school fees.
Let's talk about these virtual clubs. Can't leave it there. Some interesting stuff. Tell us about it.
Yeah, sure. So virtual clubs is something that I'm very excited about. And, they're going to be running on a weekly and fortnightly basis, and they'll be really falling in three main categories. It will be well-being, creativity, and opportunities for learners to learn new skills.
Yeah.
And so, to give you a couple of examples, we'll have debating clubs, we'll have music clubs, book clubs, yoga and mindfulness, coding, self-awareness, drawing, and artwork, and environmental clubs. And, that's just to name a few.
I mean, you got me on the coding and the drawing. I mean, does an old fart like me get to check it out as well?
You can watch from.
I'll just check it out. I'm out. I'm never scared to tell people how old I am, right? But I'm 47, and I all of a sudden decided that I want to learn how to draw cartoons. So I've gone to this thing called Udemy, and I've just downloaded. I haven't gotten to any of them yet, but it's the one thing I actually wish I did at school, because how you translate that into visual language and emotionally engaging people, once again, even through business, is really important. Just looking at things like drawing. So this is not just extracurricular, it's always tied into a potential skill that you can use, outside of the framework of school itself.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the beauty also of the online space is that we've got so much room to innovate. We can bring in, so many different types of activities, and I think we can expose learners to so many different things that, without being limited to the confines, of course, of a physical brick and mortar school.
Absolutely. Well, listen, what an absolute pleasure. I've worked in many spaces before, right? And I'm not just saying it because our boss, Luke, who actually is the boss's CEO, because he's so efficient, he's listening. I'm not just saying it because Luke's here. I can truly tell you that you are who you surround yourself with. And that includes your children being at a school, being surrounded by people who will either lift them up and let them see their potential, right, and assist them through the hard times. You're going to have that in everybody you see here. Everybody's been very carefully chosen. I'm not sure how I made it on, but anyway, people were very carefully chosen to be part of this. And I promise you, it is going to be a fulfilling experience for your child. So once again, welcome. And thank you once again, Daniela, Dylan, Monet. An absolute privilege and pleasure chatting to you today. And
thank you, Kino.
Great. And I'm just encouraging everybody, by the way, that those questions that you've asked, we're going to get back to you. We've got guidance. We've got the right people. I almost lost the word there. Who'll get a hold of you and answer those questions. But we need to know how to get hold of you, please. There'll be more of these sessions. I'll be running probably most of them. It's what I enjoy doing. But I want to wish you a glorious evening. I've given you 2 minutes extra. I did say 30 minutes, but there's 2 minutes left. Enjoy those 2 minutes and the rest of your evening. Cheers, team. Thank you very much.